So, let us focus on the facts and set the drama aside. It all started with a single point in the data, nothing more. But the data does not lie, and this point was moving at an incredible speed, 61 kilometers per second. This is not the result of a gravitational maneuver from the Oort cloud. Reaching such speed requires a powerful thrust, a necessary engine. And the trajectory, it is simply laughable. It perfectly lies in the plane of the ecliptic. The probability of such a random coincidence is practically zero. This is not a coincidence. It is calculated. It looks like an ideal trajectory for entering the solar system with minimal energy expenditure, as if someone plotted the course in the program Kerbal Space Program. And it is not just flying, it is confidently avoiding us, passing close to Mars, which is the perfect observation point. And Earth? We will be on the other side of the Sun. This is not gravity, this is deliberate maneuvering. And here is what is most curious. Its direction vector originates from the constellation Sagittarius. That is where the signal came from. People have debated its origin for decades. Were there interferences? Natural phenomena? You have to be blind not to see the connection. First, there was the message, and now here it is, the courier. And this is precisely what the James Webb Telescope is showing us. This is truly important. Forget everything you knew about comets. Under the influence of solar heat, they undergo sublimation of volatile metals. Iron and nickel always go together, as they are created by the same star. That is the foundation of physics. However, the telescope only detects nickel and does not notice iron. This is impossible from a natural standpoint, which means a separation process is occurring. This is technology, this is a discharge or cyanide, and its concentration has sharply increased. This is not slow evaporation. It resembles a fuel system purge or a release. I see such chemical signatures in our engines, not on a piece of ice. Vellab spoke about this to the contemporary Amu, and back then people laughed. But now the data is on his side. This is not a comet. This is a machine. Now about the light. Judging by the brightness, this thing should be enormous, yet it is small. This means it glows on its own. It has its own energy source. The thermal map is asymmetrical. One side is hot, the other is cold. This is not solar heat. This is a radiator, a working reactor or engine. We see not a rock, but a probe that is very well camouflaged. And finally, the signal we have all been waiting for. It was hidden in the noise, but this is a structured repeating pattern, not random. Yes, it is in the same frequency range as the signal. So here is the main conclusion. An object with unnatural speed and a controlled trajectory came from the source of a known signal. Its chemical composition is a product of technology, not nature. It has its own energy source, and it is transmitting a structured signal. The question is no longer what it is, but who sent it. And the main question, is it just a scout or something more serious? We need more data. We must be prepared. That is why we are building the Starship. Not just to fly to Mars, but for moments like this. The entire history of humanity may come down to how we respond to this, and perhaps we will not have a second chance. To understand the horror behind the third atlas, we need to go back to the year 2017. That was when Oumuamua, the first confirmed interstellar object, zipped past Earth. Quiet, fast, and strange. Initially, it was thought to be a cigar-shaped asteroid, but its movement was inexplicable. It accelerated without a tail, gas, or dust. To explain its behavior, there was a lack of a smooth push, like that of a spacecraft correcting its course. Ultimately, scientists abandoned attempts to explain it and preferred to call it a mystery and move on. But some did not forget about it. One of them was Vellab, who insisted that we had missed something significant by ignoring evidence of something artificial. Now the third atlas feels like déjà vu, but in a more serious form, Because unlike Oumuamua, which flew by before we could react, the third atlas is still here. It continues to emit strange signals, releases unnatural gases, and moves along a trajectory that mimics the gravitational maneuvers used by our own probes. If we assume that Oumuamua was a warning signal, then the third atlas may be a continuation, a second encounter, or even something entirely different. And this time we are prepared. Or at least, that is what we think. Gradually, more telescopes began to track the third atlas, and in the boldest scientific circles, the idea started to be discussed. An idea that scientists were not yet ready to make public, but could not help but talk about. What if this object is not just artificial? What if it possesses intelligence? Not in the sense that we understand consciousness, but like a predator watching from the shadows. Its trajectory looks too perfect, its acceleration too calculated, and its silence too strategic. The gases it emits are byproducts of its construction. They are decaying. Its approach vector allows it to observe key planets in the solar system while remaining undetected. Its position is chosen with surgical precision, almost like in a reconnaissance mission. And looking at it from this perspective, every detail becomes more sinister. The absence of iron, the accuracy of its course, the glow that defies thermodynamics, and now, a signal. As if something is testing us, not making contact, not revealing itself, but simply observing, assessing our reaction, perhaps preparing us for something we are not yet capable of understanding. This is not random exploration. It feels like intent. As strange as the trajectory and signal may appear, the chemical behavior of the object raises no fewer questions. Spectral analysis conducted by the James Webb Telescope revealed a mysterious combination of compounds. Primarily, this is carbon dioxide, cyanide, and pure nickel vapor. Each of these substances could be explained by natural processes, but in such quantities, at such speed, and in such a pattern, they tell a completely different story. Nickel in space never exists alone. It always pairs with iron, yet here it is almost absent. Although it is present in comets, the emissions do not occur so violently, and the carbon dioxide in such volumes suggests either a completely new class of objects or something that utilizes fuel. Vellab and other researchers noted that many industrial processes, especially those related to high-performance smelting facilities or propulsion systems, can emit exactly this combination of gases under load. Imagine a spacecraft with a nuclear engine designed for extreme temperatures, built from exotic materials using special coatings and adhesives. Now picture it passing close to the sun. Its hull expands, seams crack, releasing molecules that do not form from melting ice, but are products of technological degradation. What we see may not be the breath of a comet, but a leak from a dying machine. In the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, there exists a theory that casts a long shadow, the dark forest hypothesis. It posits that life is teeming in the universe, but no one dares to break the silence, for silence in dangerous space is the key to survival. According to this theory, every civilization hides, fearing to reveal its location and be destroyed by more advanced beings. Now let us look again at Object 3 and Atlas through this lens. What if this is not just a random visitor? What if it is a scout disguised as a natural object, programmed to avoid Earth and emitting only barely detectable signals, measuring, mapping, and transmitting data somewhere far beyond our understanding? It never approaches Earth, risks being detected, or reveals its cover. But it is aware that we are watching, and the fact that we noticed it could change everything. Perhaps it was never meant to be seen. Or maybe this was the final test to determine if we are ready, not for contact, but for revelation. For in a universe full of silent observers, the moment someone speaks, intentionally or accidentally, the game changes, the forest awakens. And now we must ask ourselves, did we just hear it? Or did someone else just catch us? As Object 3 and Atlas continue their silent journey through the solar system, a unique opportunity is rapidly approaching. On the 3rd of October, 2025, the object will make a close approach to Mars, flying past the red planet at a distance sufficient for our automated observers to detect it, if not more. The Martian Reconnaissance Orbital Vehicle, which is currently orbiting the planet, is equipped with one of the most powerful cameras ever sent into space. This is the High-Resolution Imaging Science Experiment. It is capable of distinguishing details as small as 30 kilometers per pixel at a proposed distance of 3.5 million kilometers. This is not enough to see fine details, but it is more than sufficient to capture something extremely important. Does this object reflect light or produce it itself? Scientists are preparing a narrow observation window during the flyby, fully aware that this could be a once-in-a-generation opportunity. If the object behaves predictably, changes trajectory, accelerates, or releases new gases, it will be recorded. And this time, the data will be not theoretical, but visually concrete. But this is on the condition that the object does not do something completely unexpected, such as disappearing altogether. In recent months, as public interest in the object has grown, a strange shift has occurred behind the scenes of the most prestigious space agencies in the world. The NASA Mission Tracker, which previously updated information about the object's movement in real time, suddenly ceased to function. Access to data from the Yaco telescopes was suspended. Archived data from the Webb telescope began to issue access denial messages to researchers who previously had access. In the astrophysics scientific community, alarming rumors began to spread rapidly. Some researchers, without prior notice, were removed from their projects, and their conference presentations were canceled at the last minute. The studies they were conducting unexpectedly faced delays or were even retracted. Soon, the term data lockdown on anomalies began to circulate in encrypted emails and closed communities. Some speculated that the object had done something that could not be disclosed, while others believed that governments had drawn conclusions about potentially destabilizing consequences. But regardless of the true reason, one thing can be said with certainty. Silence now emanates not only from space, but also from Earth. When traditional analytical methods proved powerless against the strange patterns emanating from the object, scientists turned to the most advanced tools available to them: artificial intelligence. A machine learning system, trained on years of radio astronomy data, gained access to the spectrographic recordings from the Webb telescope. It was tasked with searching for hidden patterns and recurring symmetries that went beyond ordinary cosmic noise. And what they discovered astonished even seasoned engineers. Their attention was drawn to a self-correcting sequence, a data structure that resisted chaos and resembled known compression models, adapting to the introduced noise. It was reliable, intelligent, and eerily reminiscent of earthly machine code. What troubled researchers even more was that the system did not respond to requests instantly, but with a delay, as if it were waiting for a signal. For years, scientists had dreamed of such a discovery, but no one could have imagined that the first response would come not through a radio telescope, but through the breath of an imposter disguised as a comet. We may not be the first civilizations to create machines capable of communication, but perhaps we are the first to be naive enough to respond to it. While various theories piled on top of the anomalies and the behavior of the object challenged all natural explanations, a frightening idea returned to public consciousness, an idea that physicists had discussed for decades, but never dared to connect with real data. What if this object, this interstellar intruder, is not a machine in our understanding, but something more fundamental? What if it is part of the code? Within the framework of the simulation hypothesis, our universe could be an artificial construct, operating under laws that seem physical only until certain boundaries are reached. An object like 3 Ayatolahs, which ignores chemical laws, emits structured information, and alters its trajectory without the influence of forces, moves with a clear purpose. Could this be the equivalent of a debugging package designed to test the limits of the system or simulate contact with other planets? And if so, why now? Why, in the era of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and the launch of the outer exoplanetary boundary into the farthest reaches of space? Perhaps the three Ayatollahs appeared not only from beyond our system, but also as a result of boundaries within our simulation. It could have been a test, a push, a disturbance to see how we would react and what we would do. After all, perhaps this object was sent not to explore us, but to remind us that we do not control the system we think we understand. While civilian scientists and space agencies quietly investigate the mystery of three Ayatollahs, another mechanism comes into play. This mechanism is less interested in discoveries and more focused on maintaining control. According to anonymous sources from the aerospace defense sectors, the United States Space Forces, in conjunction with the Ministry of Defense of Europe and Israel, have begun to classify all data regarding three Ayatollahs as first-level strategic intelligence information. This is the same level applied to telemetry, nuclear launches, and extraterrestrial threats to orbital infrastructure. Why such a sharp escalation? Some specialists suggest that it is related to telemetry collected by high-orbit reconnaissance satellites that intercepted electromagnetic signals from the object. These signals are not only structured, but also change in response to observation. The conclusion is alarming. Three Ayatollahs not only emits, but also listens. If this is the case, then every radar pulse, every signal from the telescope, every quantum scan may reveal something greater than we can comprehend. For the first time in decades, military analysts are discussing not just the possibility of contact, but also the contours of that contact. Because if this object is capable of learning, the next question is whether it can act. While most attention is focused on the current behavior of the object, a small group of theoretical physicists has proposed an even more astonishing hypothesis. By analyzing data regarding its trajectory, chemical emissions, and curves resembling multidimensional graphical models, they have begun to notice something else. A pattern that repeats at various scales, much like a fractal. This has led to a radically new theory about Three and Atlas. It is not just an interstellar visitor, but some kind of map, not a map in the conventional sense. This is fractal coding of astronomical alignments, potentially indicating gravitational anomalies, concentrations of energy, or even hidden planetary systems. In other words, it may be here not just to study us, but to guide us somewhere. Some suggest that the object uses the sun as a sort of gravitational lens, subtly altering its position to explore deeper regions of the galaxy that lie beyond our perception. If this is true, then what is in the focus of this lens? What exactly is Three and Atlas trying to see? The deeper scientists delve into the mysteries of Three and Atlas, the more historical records begin to ignite with icy relevance. Old observatory journals from the 18th century show brief anomalies, bright points of light moving across the sky, which were never fully explained. The mythology of indigenous peoples from various cultures mentions celestial stones that came from one side, from the constellation Sagittarius, bringing not destruction, but knowledge. The ancient people of Dagon described in their legends a guest star that approached and left a message in the heavens long before they could comprehend the existence of deep space. Moreover, re-examinations of data from Voyager in the early 2000s revealed bursts of electromagnetic activity coinciding with the current frequency patterns of Three and Atlas. However, at that time, we had no means to interpret them. This created a sense that this object or something like it had already visited our planet. Or perhaps it never left. With the advent of modern tools that are beginning to restore ancient patterns, we may be rediscovering a looped signal intended to awaken our consciousness to something far more ancient than we could ever imagine. In a final, desperate attempt To decipher the pattern of 3 and Atlas, an international team of researchers decided to turn to an unexpected source. The golden record with data they discovered shocked the research group. Several harmonic structures in the emission of the 3 and the Atlas reflected segments of mathematical and musical data from the golden record. Although the matches were not perfect, they displayed unmistakable correspondences in key intervals and arrangements. This could not be mere coincidence. Somehow, the emission from this object echoed humanity's initial attempt to establish cosmic communication. But how is this possible? The object must have intercepted the Voyager signal, decoded it, and then waited decades before responding in kind. Or perhaps there is an even more astonishing version. The 3 and the Atlas may have appeared before Voyager, and it was their signal that inspired us to create the golden record. Could the message contained in our symbolic space probe be an unconscious response to a signal we did not even realize we had received? If so, then who really made contact first? With each passing day, the anomalies of the 3 and the Atlas become increasingly noticeable, and among astrophysicists and researchers, quiet conversations have begun to spread, moving beyond the idea of a single interstellar visitor to something more complex, a silent galactic network. According to this theory, the 3 and the Atlas may not be acting alone. Perhaps it is part of an extensive distributed system of probes or beacons. Each one is disguised as a natural object, such as a comet or an asteroid, and silently observes the stars. Researchers have started to compare the flight trajectories of previous objects, such as Comet Borisov and Oumuamua, and faint patterns have begun to emerge. A slight synchronicity in their timings, subtle mathematical harmonies in their trajectories. What if these are not random events? What if they all represent links in a planetary-scale network, quietly mapping civilizations that never linger long enough to be caught, yet leave enough traces to initiate a new phase of observation? And now, as the 3 and the Atlas pass through our solar system, it may be sending updates to something that lies far beyond our capabilities. It reports not only what it sees, but also how we react. Perhaps we are merely an experiment for them. When the James Webb Space Telescope conducted its first detailed thermal scan of the 3 and the Atlas, the results astonished engineers and astrophysicists. Instead of the expected thermal profile, where one side is heated by the sun while the other remains cold, the object exhibited a bipolar thermal signature. 2 fixed points on its surface continuously emit heat, regardless of rotation and the influence of sunlight. It is as if the object contains internal heat sources, perhaps reactors or energy modules that continue to function after an incredible journey through interstellar space. On Earth, we have observed similar thermal patterns on our spacecraft, especially on those that have internal power sources, such as radioisotope generators, thermal batteries, and even early nuclear engines. The conclusions are staggering. If the object known as Tri and Atlas truly supports self-regulating energy zones, it is neither a comet nor an asteroid, nor just a quirk of cosmic dust. It is a machine that is still active, and whatever it is doing, observing, collecting data, or transmitting it, it does so with such precision and autonomy that we may have just witnessed something alive in a functional sense, if not in a biological one. Immediately after Tri and Atlas entered the inner solar system, strange events began to unfold, causing panic in observatories around the world. Signals from known pulsars, used as cosmic clocks due to their regularity, started arriving out of sync. The deviations were small, initially just a few milliseconds, but they were consistent and increasing. These pulses, which scientists relied on for calibrating deep space instruments, were distorted as if passing through local disturbances in space-time. The anomalies were triangular and tracked near the Sun, as well as in close proximity to Tri and Atlas. This created a terrifying possibility. The object could be warping space-time itself around it. Non-gravitational technologies were creating fields and bubbles through which light and time no longer moved as they should. If this is the case, then the object is not merely observing us. It is interacting with space and time itself, and every second it spends in our solar system may distort not only light. It has the potential to warp the laws of reality, leaving traces that we will not be able to comprehend until it disappears. At this point, many scientists continue to attempt to explain Tri and Atlas from the perspectives of physics and engineering, while a small group of quantum cosmologists has proposed a theory so radical and unsettling that it has quietly been set aside in private meetings and closed academic discussions. They refer to it as the hypothesis of reality collapse. According to this theory, Tri and Atlas may not be from another star in the conventional sense, but rather represent another version of the universe, not from another place in space, but from a different informational layer of reality. This hypothesis suggests that certain objects can cross the boundaries between quantum states, bringing with them a physical code of rules from another universe. And when this occurs, our biological, physical, and informational systems begin to break down under the pressure of incompatible logic. Could this explain the strange signal, the temporal distortions, and the mirrored data from the golden record of Voyager? Perhaps this is why everything we send into deep space seems to disappear or return altered. If 3AI anomalies seep through the seams of interdimensional logic, we are not merely observing a foreign object. We are witnessing a collision of realities, a collision that may have already breached the holes in our own. So here we are, after 20 acts of this mystery that still eludes a name. A comet that is not a comet, its trajectory too perfect. The chemical signature appears too artificial, the signal too precise to be random, heat emanating not from the sun, and time that is warped. Matter behaves in ways it should not. Silence surrounds us, broken only by the quiet hum of something ancient that glides at the edge of perception. The James Webb Telescope was designed to peer into the past, to show us the birth of galaxies, to trace the fingerprints of creation itself. But instead, it has discovered something that exists here and now, and what is most unsettling is that it is aware of what is happening. We thought we were looking outward, but perhaps we were being led to something that was always meant to be found, not because it wanted to be revealed, but because we have finally become ready to see it. And yet, after all the data, all the theories, all the fear, there remains one possibility that echoes in the darkest corners of what we dare not speak aloud. What if the signal was not a message? What if it was a mirror, a test, not of intelligence but of reaction? A pattern carefully designed to reflect our own fears, our desires, our thirst for knowledge. And now, having looked too closely, having begun to listen, we can no longer pretend we did not hear it. Perhaps the signal was not meant for us to respond to. Maybe it was created to show us who we will become once we realize we are not alone in the universe. Now we are looking not only into the boundless cosmos, but also delving into ourselves. And perhaps all this time, someone has been deciphering our secrets. If this story has sent chills down your spine, if you are still pondering whether the anomaly is a comet, a machine, or something entirely different, if you believe that there is something more behind this object than we can imagine, let us know. Share your thoughts. Do you think the anomaly is a natural phenomenon? Or is it the beginning of something we should not be witnessing? We are not seeking clickbait. We are searching for signals that others prefer to overlook.